set up and draw and just go to work. You know, I did a lot of research on 19th century drawing methods, and you know, I didn't know anybody who could teach me that stuff, but I figured, I don't know, how hard could it be? It turns out it's very hard, but I'm just finding that out now. It's actually okay. So I'm gonna have to describe every picture to you now. But in any case, when I really got going, and this is, you know, I did some reading and people were saying online that if you really wanted to be serious about animation, then you had to learn how to draw from life, and you had to learn how to draw structurally, and you had to learn how to draw both well and fast. So I thought, okay, let's give it a shot. So I convinced my poor parents to pose for me for several hours on end, each of them. You can tell that my dad was thrilled about it, and so was my mom, right? And I mean, these are like 2 to 3 hour sittings, you know, because for a drawing like that, that's, you know, that's quick. The most I could get out of my dad was, I'm going to be watching TV and will not move that much. And I thought, you know what? All right, man, I can do that. I can work with that. So in any case, did that. This is in our backyard in Tijuana. We had a, you know, a very, let's see, what's the word? Rustic setup for, you know, just for grilling things and, you know, making stew, actually. That's actually what we did back there. So we go outside in our backyard, sort of like this, actually, and just, you know, light a fire, you know, have some food, hang out. So in any case, in the time that I was in San Diego, okay, again, I'm very, very fortunate to be at that school. I had some very supportive teachers. Everyone pretty much knew that I just wanted to draw and paint. And the animation thing started slowly falling by the wayside. I didn't know it at the time, but everybody else could see it coming. So basically all of my teachers would just let me cut out of class early so that I could go to the art room and draw. I got my first, you know, sort of experience studying anatomy when my biology teacher let me crash his class and draw the skull that they had. You know, I asked him, I said, you know what? This will be really useful to me. Could I just come in and, you know, just during your class and just set up? And he said, yeah, I don't care, sure. And that was it, and sort of everybody was kind of in on it, you know, which is great. So again, I was very, very lucky to have that experience. We were, you know, they trained us very well in writing and things like that, so that college was actually really easy, which is great. If we could hop to the next slide, please. So come college, 18, I finally moved to the United States, period, and I moved to Los Angeles specifically. I went to school at USC, and I majored in animation. I still had the idea of the whole animation thing in mind. What I found is that the program's aims did not quite meet the aims that I had for what I wanted to do. And so I started skipping class a lot, and found teachers that were actually very amenable to the goals that I had. I studied with, and I really lucked out this time. I studied with Glenn Villepoux and Will Weston, also Adrian Gottlieb a little later on, and they were, during my college years, my primary teachers, and I am forever indebted to them. You know, their guidance was sound, it was logical, and there was never such a thing as you don't have enough talent, or even any talk of talent, actually. I was taught to think that it just wasn't really a thing, and I, you know, whether it is or it isn't, I don't know, you know, but as a practical belief, it's not something that I find it productive to think about, so I don't. In any case, when I was in school, you know, I was doing life drawing constantly. I mean, just maybe 15 hours a week, you know, in between my other schoolwork and that kind of thing. And I was also painting outside. The painting outside I did mostly on my own, and I would just, I was young and reckless at the time. So I would go out into the field with a 2 by 3 foot panel and just, I don't know, just to see what would happen. Right, so this is in San Diego, actually when I went back for winter break. This is the Pier Cafe, and that's the painting of Pier Cafe. And this is my really grimy setup that I had at the time. Cleanliness in painting was not a habit that I had developed at the time. I have now, but not at the time. And in any case, I was just working through a number of still lifes and things like that, going outside and painting, doing, this was in Glenn's class, we were drilled in head structure, had to learn the skull, any number of things that have been immeasurably useful now. Once my time at USC came to a close, my roommate and I actually decided to move to Virginia because we didn't have anywhere to be, so why not? We moved to Virginia to study with Robert Liberace, who is one of the premier figure painters alive today, and also one of the nicest people that I've ever met. We weren't able to sign up for the class because there's some issue with the computer thing, the computer registration system, right? So we got bumped to the back of the line, and these classes fill up really fast. We went to meet him anyway. It turns out we liked a lot of the same painters. I loaned him one of my books. When it came time for him to return the book, he said, you know, a bunch of people dropped out of the class. You want to come in, just pay the model fee, take the class for free? I said, yes. Yes, I would like to take that class. We can hop to the next slide, please. So this is what I did in Rob's class. At the time, I was working this nauseating job painting dragons on women's jeans, on designer $1,300 jeans. And I thought to myself, do I want to debase myself doing this in the noble art of painting? And then I looked in my fridge and I thought, yes, I do. Yes, I do. So for $10 an hour, I was painting dragons day in, day out, and they were terrible. And unfortunately, the company does not make the jeans anymore because they were not profitable, although some evidence remains online. If anyone's curious, I will show you later. But be forewarned. Your aesthetic sense may be ruined forever after seeing these things. In any case, I was extremely fortunate to get the Stacy Scholarship while I was, chipping away at my dragon paintings, and the grant was enough money that it allowed me to just devote the entirety of my last 3 months in Virginia to study, and that's when I made these. These are towards the end of my time there. I was there for 9 months. I lived very close to the Pentagon, actually. Pentagon was actually the metro stop that I would have to go to before heading off to work at the old Dragon Mill. But in any case, when I went to Rob, because I had gotten a very rigorous, very general education before. When I went to Rob, I found somebody who was basically a kindred spirit, someone who liked the same kind of painting that I did, someone who knew how to do the kind of painting that I wanted to do, which to me was just incredible. I mean, I can't describe to you how happy I was during my time in Virginia. I was underfed. I lost 15 pounds, which I could not afford to lose at the time. Haven't found them since. But it was amazing. It was some of the best years that I ever had because I wasn't eating food, but I was eating, I was nourishing myself at least with knowledge. And that's what I really wanted. That's all I ever really wanted anyway. So we can hop to the next slide, please. So I mentioned the painters that Rob and I liked, and this is a painting by Mariano Fortuny, who's actually my absolute favorite painter, and this may be my favorite painting of all time. This still has about a month of work left in it. Unfortunately, Fortuny did not live to see that next month. He died very suddenly at the age of 36 and left a void in the art world of the 19th century after his passing. But he was the most famous artist of his time. He was extremely successful, and he was a revolutionary painter in that he was same age as the Impressionist, also went out into the field and, just to try to see honestly and to try to push past some conventions and to try to find something, not to try to find, but to find what was beautiful out in the world and to celebrate it. And this is where that long rant about Mexico comes back in, okay? There is the same air of celebration, the same rejoicing in life, the same, desire to like squeeze every drop of enjoyment out of the kind of sensuous experience that we're surrounded in. You're shrouded in any number of sights and smells and sounds as you go through your life, and that is something that it's the only thing that we have guaranteed, and it's something that is to me so incredibly beautiful and can be taken for granted so easily. That's what I found in these paintings, and I found things that I actually discovered Fortuny's work at the art library at USC, where I spent a lot of time, right? And the book was called The Orientalists. It was a book about a number of painters who went to North Africa and traveled there, met people there, and made these paintings a lot of them, and this is not the sort of previous centuries Orientalism, which is primarily based on fantasy. This is mainly what was at the time called an ethnographic realism. So people would go, they would do research, and they were obsessed with what they called truth, right? And so they wanted to report back. It was painting as journalism in a way. And if you're ever interested in that kind of painting, LACMA owns a magnificent example by Edwin Lord Weeks, who was an American painter who was, shared the same sensibility basically. And whenever they don't have it in storage, they show it in the American wing, and it's terrific. It's not quite as good as this, but it's really good. In any case, this is Fortunini's last painting, and it served as a source of inspiration for many, many, many years. It's in a private collection. It's in the United States somewhere. We don't know where. I haven't been able to find out yet, but I feel like I'm close. In any case, if we can move to the next slide, please. So eventually I came back to Los Angeles. Again, I was in Virginia for 9 months. Terrific 9 months. But as much as I liked the class, I really missed LA. I didn't think I would because I hated LA when I first moved here. But I can't live anywhere else. I don't think I can do it. And honestly, yeah, I think Los Angeles sort of gets short thrift in terms of how immensely full of opportunities for painting the place is. And I'm primarily a painter of genre and landscape. Genre being scenes from everyday life, and landscape is obviously landscape. Although people do ask me if I'm a landscaper every now and then. That is not the technical term. But in any case, when I came back, I actually moved to this place called Panorama City. Nice little hamlet of the valley. A lot of shootings. I actually moved because the building across from me was set on fire by a rival gang. So at the time I thought, it's probably time to move. So I moved to Burbank. And there was, obviously, if you've ever been to Burbank, nothing ever happens in Burbank. It was great. So in any case, I started teaching at the time, which has been incredibly rewarding. I never thought that I would end up teaching, but it's been really, really terrific. And so I was working at the Los Angeles Academy of Figurative Art, teaching my first class, which again, I was also very, very lucky to get. I don't know if they knew that I had never taught before, but I thought, sure, I'll try this. I certainly don't want to starve again. So in any case, I started going out and exploring, hiking, trying to find these little hidden corners of the city, places that maybe don't get paid a lot of attention by other people. And the reason for that is this. In my mind, the way that I see things, beauty is not the same thing as, say, attractiveness or prettiness, right? Often in landscape, I hear this a lot when I talk to people. They'll say like, "Oh, well, why don't you go out and paint a pretty landscape, like some mountains, maybe some, some happy trees, some squirrels, a lake," and that's fine. I have no, I enjoy those things as well. But the thing is that I think we can at times have a very narrow conception of what beauty actually means, and at least I've tried to develop my own definition of that, and the best that I can narrow it down to is beauty is a celebration of life. That's what I think it is. Now, any given person is not going to be drawn to anything, but I think things by virtue of existing, by virtue of being part of the phenomenon of sight that we share together, right? As far as I understand, and I'm not a scientist, the way that we perceive color is actually just our brain's interpretation of a physical phenomenon, but it's not, color doesn't actually exist. It's just our brain's way of interpreting, the sort of information that we get of like what part of the spectrum is being reflected off of an object. So human sight, human color vision, at least as far as I know, and if anyone knows any different, please let me know. But it's a unique experience that we have. It's something that's intrinsically a part of our lives that we share more so than culture, more so than language, more so than any number of things. And for me, that sense of going out and celebrating things, of appreciating things, my life moves by really quickly. I don't know if you can tell. I talk fast. I can be a little jittery at times. And painting provides this interface, this way for me to connect with life where I can slow down. I can slow down and I can remember things. I can look at something like this